Design techniques number 2. We'll talk about rhythm, rule of thirds, and framing. And we'll have some exercises for you to practice these things. So as you remember from our rhythm discussion, a rhythm is repeating a color, shape, texture, but with style. And you can vary the repetition, for example, small to large, warm to cool colors, and also you can create sets of repetitions. So a set of repetition could be a pattern. Creating a pattern in Photoshop is fairly easy these days. Basically, we need to get something abstract that we can use, and we're going to generate a pattern from it. Then we'll apply this pattern to a layer. Essentially, these steps will allow us to apply the pattern and add some variation to the pattern in order to make it look three-dimensional. So here's an image I found on Pexels.com. It's just some fireworks. Let's see if we can make an interesting pattern from this. Now, above the Layers panel, there should be another set of tabs here for Properties, Adjustments, and Libraries. If you don't see this, make sure to go up to Window and Workspace and Essentials Default. And if you have that selected and it's not appearing, go ahead and reset Essentials to get that. All right, let's click on the Libraries tab. And then you'll notice a plus on the bottom here. Click on the plus and choose Extract from Image. That'll bring up a modal dialog box that we can play around with. Now, the one we want is patterns, and there are other things that we can use. Color themes is interesting, so if you want to get a set of colors from an image, you can do that here. So let's go to patterns, since we're dealing with patterns today. You can choose different methods of generating the patterns by moving these sliders and choosing buttons up here. Basically, it's all about experimenting and find something that looks good to you. But we will start with kind of like that. And then we can, like I said, we can move these sliders around. And as you notice, it's sampling from different areas, depending on the scale we have set up and the rotation. It changes how the pattern will eventually look. So we can try scaling that and rotating it. And we can actually move what part of the image it's sampling from by grabbing this. And then we'll just keep going until we find something that's interesting. Okay. So that looks pretty good. So when I find something that I like, I can press Save to CC Libraries. Now we're not done. We can go ahead and rescale and rotate and then find a different part of the image. And guess what? We've got 2 patterns from one image. Awesome. All right, so I'll close this. And we're actually done with this image. We don't need to do anything more. So I'll just go to File and Open and choose the classyman.psd. And I'm pressing Command 0 to make him bigger. And then we'll notice over in the Layers panel, we have a few things here. We have the background, and then we have the jacket. So if we just look at the jacket layer, that's just the jacket, and I've knocked out the button there. So we'll turn the background back on, and what we're going to do is we're going to do a little bit of work before we apply this pattern to the jacket. So first, let's select the jacket. So we are going to put a new layer on top of it. So we go to the little yin and yang here at the bottom of the Layers panel and choose black and white. And you'll notice it made the entire image black and white, which is not what we want. We just want the jacket to be black and white. So to fix that, we can do one of 2 things. We can either go into the properties and click this button here, or if you want to be a professional, you click Alt or Option and hover over the 2 layers and watch how your mouse pointer changes from the pointer hand to that same icon. So with the arrow pointing down. So once you got that icon, go ahead and click, and it will clip this adjustment to that layer. Now, this is good. This is getting us where we need to be. However, this might be the wrong shade of gray. So let's activate this gray square, which is basically just a gray square that's 50% black. And we want the jacket to kind of match what that is. So with the black and white adjustment layer selected, we'll add another adjustment layer. We could do curves, or we could do just plain old levels. I usually go to curves for everything, but let's just do levels. It's simpler. And you'll notice we have this little diagram here. That's called a histogram. And we can adjust how light or dark the image is by adjusting these little pointers here under the histogram. In this case, we'll take the white pointer and we'll drag it to the left. And it's making everything lighter that used to be dark. And so we get to a point where, oh, that's lighter than the square. So we just take it back a bit until we get something that's closer to that gray. Go about there. And then you'll notice, oh my gosh, it's lightening the entire image. We just want the jacket. Guess what we do? Same thing again. We just press this button, or we hover between the two layers while holding down the Alt or Option key. And we clip that adjustment to the black and white adjustment. We can turn off this gray square since we're done with it. And then let's go back to our libraries. And then let's find the two patterns that we just created. Okay. And then that will apply this pattern, which is too large. So I'll go ahead and change the scale on this. I'm hovering my mouse over the word scale and then clicking and holding to change that number. Also, you could type the number if you like. Let's see, 4? Okay, so we'll try that. We can change this later, but for now, we'll just press OK. And guess what we're going to do? That's right, we're going to clip this to the layer below. So for this one, we don't have the other option. We have to hold down Alt or Option, hover between the two layers, and then click. There we go. Perfect, exactly what we intended, right? Well, not exactly. This pattern fill is applying this pattern over the entire jacket, and it's not making any variations in, there should be some light and dark areas. However, that's just totally being ignored. So how do we get Photoshop to not ignore that? What we want to do is apply a blending mode. So blending mode is how you get the pixels of one layer to blend with the pixels of another layer. Now remember, we created this layer by making this kind of a 50% gray. So what happens with 50% gray and certain blending modes is that it allows the pattern to show through, or the pixels to show through as is. If there are darker pixels on the lower layer, it will make the pattern darker as well. So that's all kind of theoretical and all, but let's change the blending mode and see what it actually does. Change it from normal to overlay. And right away we see, hey, we have a classy pattern on this guy now. Very good. The rule of thirds, as you remember, is putting the subject in the center is boring. So you can imagine splitting the canvas into 3 parts vertically and horizontally, and then positioning things on those lines. Now, when you crop in Photoshop, you can choose to display the rule of thirds so it can give you a kind of good idea as to where to actually perform your crop. So let's take a look at that. Here's an image of a sailboat that I found on Pexels.com. Now, this is a portrait, and I want to make this a landscape. And there's a little bit of a distraction here. So let's see if we can do this all by cropping. So I'll choose the crop tool, and then I'm going to want to change my ratio. We'll choose 8:10 or 4:5. And then instead of making it a portrait, we're going to press this little button here, and it'll change it to landscape. Now we can move the image around, the underlying image, and let's get the horizon on the bottom of the rule of thirds. And then let's crop in a little to get rid of that little distraction on the side. And we're also moving this mast to the line on the line of thirds there. And then as we reposition this, now our horizon is a little higher. So let's move the image once again. And there we go. And to perform the crop, you can press return or you can click on the check mark. And let's see. Yeah, that's looking good. Sometimes just cropping things differently can fix things, like removing distractions. We can make a subject occupy a more prominent position, and the same image can have multiple interpretations.